I am delighted to open the 5,590th meeting of the Rotary Club of Chicago. Impressive, yes. So, now that I have exercised the power of ringing the bell, I would like to invite, well, first of all, I would like to say hello to everybody that is on Zoom. And will you excuse me for a moment? I have to load my computer here. So, well, now that I have Connor online, Connor, would you go ahead and share with us the thought of the day? As you know, Connor is a past president of our club, and we're very proud that he's a district governor nominee for 6450, and he's been very kind to come and speak with us.
Thank you so much, Marga. Good to see everybody online. And I can't see you in the room, but I'm sure you guys can hear me. So I thought about why Rotary is so successful in our campaign to eradicate polio from the face of the earth. And what it keeps coming back to is communities. That's Rotary's strength, right? We are the boots on the ground, as Jennifer Jones said when she recently spoke at the Global Citizen event. We are the ones who are on the ground. And so we have those relationships. And that's what allows us to go into people's homes and immunize children against polio. So as you see here, Marga sharing some pictures from us. We took a trip to India, and it truly was the reason the trip was a success was because we were able to go into the homes of these children and give them the polio vaccine, but also because of the community that the trip created. And so I just will leave you with this one quote about communities. One of the marvelous things about community is that it enables us to welcome and help people in a way that we couldn't as individuals. When we pool our strength and share the work and responsibility, imagine the difference we can make. And so in your own lives, I would ask you, how are you making community? How are you putting community out into the world? Thanks so much, Marga.
Thank you, Connor, very, very much. And we do hope that one day things are going to be, that it's going to be possible again for some of you to go to India or to Nigeria to vaccinate children, or maybe we will need to do that anymore. But as you know, October is Polio month in the Rotary world, and then that's what we have been working on for the last 27 years, right? So we have made a big impact in the world with our insane idea that started back in the 80s. So let's get rid of, a disease like polio from the face of the earth. And what I would like to invite you is to watch a video that was produced by Rotary International about, you are going to see leaders from different parts of the world that talk about what we have done. All right, so Shelby, if you would like to go ahead with the video.
I would like to thank Rotarians for your incredible efforts over the decades to eradicate this devastating disease, and to congratulate you, most importantly, on what you have achieved.
Rotarians have a very powerful global voice, and they've demonstrated that time and time again about polio.
Your work matters, and we and the world need you. Every idea and action that you have taken has led us to where we are and where we will be going.
We are proud of our amazing partnership with Rotary. As we near the finish line, the work is harder than ever, and Rotary's support is more important than ever.
We cannot succeed without you. We must stay the course. Together, we can make sure the children of the future only learn about polio in history books.
It's only because of this big global movement, which had Rotary at the very center, that today we're just at the cusp of eradicating polio.
Rotarians, we need you. We really do. To continue to do what you historically have done so well, but to actually tick it up a bit.
Rotarians, you are almost there. This is an exciting, close to success moment for all of us in the world.
If you look at what's made a difference in terms of the progress, often political commitment has been a factor. And Rotary has been key in terms of motivating community leadership, political leadership, to get this job done.
Thank you, Shelby, very much. As you can see, this is a spectacular effort worldwide and Rotary has been the organization that brought all these organizations together. All these leaders that you see have participated in our conference, in our international conventions, in our conferences, and they know who we are and they understood the power that we have as Rotarians. And that includes every single person that is in this room. So always, always, always remember that. Because it may be a small lunch, but mighty things can come out from this lunch. All right. In October, we're fundraising for polio. There are many ways of doing that. And Shelby just posted a slide that you can donate to endpolio.org or the right to endpolio.org. So I personally am going to be participating in a bike ride in Tucson. It is called El Tour de Tucson, and there's Rotarians, usually about 100, that we have these gorgeous jerseys and and uniforms, and yeah, we're pretty visible, and we have been the largest fundraiser of this ride historically since this ride started taking place, together with the matching of the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation. You may like to know that we have raised about $57 million for polio eradication. So if you bike, or if you know somebody who bikes and would like to participate in the ride, have them call me, because it's very easy and everybody is invited. All right. So now, I have the great honor to introduce one woman who works at Rotary International, who I admire for her knowledge, for her energy, for the work she has done all these years in polio eradication. And we have Carol Pandak coming to talk with us. I will read you a little bit about Carol. Because I say, everybody you wanted to ask about polio, but you were afraid to ask, this is the opportunity that you have to do that now. So Carol is the director of Rotary International, of the Rotary International's Polio Plus program. Carol directs all aspects of Rotary's polio eradication program, including administration, advocacy, financial oversight, grants management, volunteer engagement support, and fundraising and communications support. Carol is the staff liaison of Rotary International Polio Plus Committee and works closely with the partners in the Global Polio Eradication Initiative, known as GPEI, including the World Health Organization, UNICEF, the U.S. Center for Disease and Control and Prevention, and the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation, and recently, Gavi, the Vaccine Alliance. Okay? Carol serves on multiple cross-agency committees and management groups of the GPEI and is Rotary's representative to the GPEI Strategy Committee. All right, Carol's work has taken her all over the world, where she has participated and monitored polio immunization campaigns, assess Rotary's and partners' activities at the country level, and participated in high-level technical and stakeholder meetings. Carol, thank you for being with us. The floor is yours.
Oh, good. There's notes here. Good afternoon, everyone. So glad to be here. Marga, thank you so much for the kind invitation. World Polio Day is October 24th, but it's really World Polio Week. So we get to celebrate World Polio Day every day this week. At least I'm certainly celebrating every day this week. What I'd like to do today is provide a bit of a refresher on what polio is, discuss our progress in polio eradication, share what it takes to eradicate a disease, and answer the question, hopefully, when will polio be eradicated? What still needs to be done to finish the job and Rotary's role in that effort? And then discuss the situation in Afghanistan, because I know a lot of people are curious about what's happening in Afghanistan. So next slide, please. So what is polio? As we discussed polio over lunch, I'm sorry, but polio is an intestinal virus that impacts children mainly under the age of 5. It can cause lifelong paralysis. There is no cure for polio, but there is a vaccine. It's completely preventable with the vaccine. The black and white photo that you see here is from the height of the polio epidemics in the United States in the 1950s, where there were some 50 to 60,000 cases of polio every year. Now, the picture at the bottom is a picture of a child from Afghanistan who has contracted polio. So this is the face of polio today. Polio impacts the children in the communities who have the least resources to help them should they, in fact, become infected with polio. Next slide, please. So this has sort of been mentioned already, but Rotary is the organization that first had a vision of a polio-free world. We did our first polio immunization campaign in the Philippines in 1979. We followed that up with campaigns in 5 additional countries. And in 1985, we launched the Polio Plus program. In 1988, we had raised $247 million, and a legion of volunteers had fanned out across South America. So in 1988, the governments of the world adopted a resolution to eradicate polio, and that's when the Global Polio Eradication Initiative was founded. And it is now supported by the 6 agencies that you see on the screen. Next slide, please. So because of this extraordinary partnership of these 6 agencies now, we've made tremendous progress in the effort to eradicate polio. In 1988, when the World Health Assembly adopted the resolution to eradicate polio, there were 350,000 cases of polio in 125 countries. So that's 1,000 children a day being paralyzed or even dying from polio. Now, as of today, in 2021, only 2 countries continue to report cases of the wild polio virus. That's Afghanistan and Pakistan, and each have only reported 1 case so far this year. So at the end of October, knock on wood, if we have no further cases, it will be 9 months since the last detection of a wild polio case in the world. And because of Rotary's efforts to eradicate polio, leading in the partnership, 19.4 million people are walking who otherwise would have been paralyzed. Next slide, please. So how do you eradicate a disease? What does it take? So we talk about the polio eradication infrastructure, and the 2 main components of that infrastructure include hundreds of thousands of frontline healthcare workers. We saw Marga immunizing children in a house. People like Marga, frontline healthcare workers all over the world, going house to house, door to door, looking for every child under the age of 5 multiple times a year to immunize them against polio. But in between the polio campaigns, there are hundreds of thousands of what we call community mobilizers. And these are women who are working in communities in which they live, and they're sharing messages about good health, the benefits of immunization with parents to encourage them to create demand for vaccination. So these hundreds of thousands of healthcare workers, there are 300,000 of such healthcare workers in Pakistan, are guided by technical medical officers. Next slide, please. So the other major element of the polio eradication infrastructure is the disease detection system. So this is made up of 146 laboratories around the world that are specialized to detect the polio virus. And it requires thousands of surveillance medical officers to go out into communities to investigate suspected cases of polio. And then they ship those samples, they take a stool specimen, and ship it to a laboratory. And then this, of course, requires thousands of technicians to test those specimens. And what's particularly interesting over the last 2 years almost of this infrastructure is that it has also been used to respond to the COVID-19 pandemic. So all of those hundreds of thousands of frontline healthcare workers are sharing messages not only about polio, but how to stay safe from COVID. They've all been given personal protection equipment so that they can interface with communities. And this disease detection system has been also detecting cases of COVID as well as polio. So it is one of the most valuable global health infrastructures in the world. Next slide, please. So a question maybe everybody wants to know, since Rotary has been working on polio since 1979, is when will polio finally be eradicated? So we have a new strategic plan that was launched in June of 2021. It has an effective start date of January 2022, but we're already starting to implement this plan, and it has 2 major milestones. The first milestone is to interrupt the transmission of the polio virus by the end of 2023. So that's really not very far away. And then we need a 3-year period from the last detection of either a case in a person or a detection in the environment before we can certify the world polio free, and that would be at the end of 2026. Next slide, please. So during this time, in this new strategy, what will we be doing to achieve a polio-free world? Well, we'll be immunizing up to 400 million children every year with oral polio vaccine, because as long as the polio virus circulates anywhere in the world, all children are at risk. And when you think about, 400 million seems like a lot, but for example, Pakistan has 40 million under 5 children. Afghanistan has 10 million children under the age of 5. Nigeria has 40 million children under the age of 5. So again, lots of children out there to be vaccinated. We need to continue to engage our frontline healthcare workers that I talked about earlier, and we need to even intensify the disease surveillance activities, looking for the polio virus not only in people or in children, but also in the environment, because the polio virus can live for a short period of time in sewage water. So we're really starting to expand that surveillance system. With so few cases of polio, you have to be able to prove that there isn't any polio circulating in the world. Next slide, please. So what is Rotary's role in this new strategic plan? And it's really based on Rotary's historic role in polio eradication. So we've been raising funds for polio since 1985, and we are in an agreement with the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation. It currently runs through 2023, whereby they match 2-to-1 every dollar Rotary raises for polio up to $50 million a year. So we'll be granting $50 million in October at the upcoming trustee meeting, and then that will trigger a $100 million contribution to Rotary from the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation, which actually comes on January 7th almost every year. I'm not sure why, but that is the date it arrives in the bank. Next slide, please. So how were Rotarian donations used last year? Both the Gates Foundation matching funds and Rotary funds. You can see from this pie chart, most of our funding goes to getting the vaccine to children. So we're supporting those hundreds of thousands of frontline healthcare workers. We're providing the chalk that people use to mark houses to indicate children have been immunized. We provide the ink for the fingers that get painted purple after children get immunized, and we're providing funding for vaccine. So that's the largest part of our funding. We're also working to raise awareness in communities about the benefits of vaccination and when they're going to happen, and also the disease detection system that I talked about. Those laboratories and those technicians, we're funding that as well, a little bit for experts and some for research. Next slide, please. So Rotary's role, in addition to fundraising, is political advocacy. And this picture on my right is a picture of, he was then President-elect Holger Knack from Germany, and he was meeting in December of 2019 with the Prime Minister of Pakistan, Imran Khan, to encourage Imran Khan to sustain Pakistan's commitment to polio eradication and to offer Rotary support for those efforts. Now, the picture on the left, and it's hard to see, but it's the trustee chair-elect Ravi Ravindran at what was the called the Pledging Moment in Abu Dhabi in November of 2019. And here he's interacting with donor governments from around the world who also provide essential funding for the Global Polio Eradication Initiative. Next slide, please. So this was mentioned in the opening comments today, is Rotary's role is community advocacy also, where the boots on the ground. And we have people in every community throughout the world. And here's a picture from Pakistan of local Rotary members meeting with the local religious leaders who are called ulemas to encourage them to talk positively about vaccinations during Friday prayers because they are influencers in their communities, and these are people that the community will listen to. Next slide, please. And then, of course, we're here today recognizing World Polio Day. It's a great opportunity to raise awareness about Rotary's role in polio eradication, the fact that Rotary has invested $2.3 billion in the global effort to eradicate polio, but perhaps more importantly has been really the boots on the ground over the years. And what former Director General of the World Health Organization said, Rotary is the conscience of the polio eradication program. So there is a program, you can download a program, but watch it on Facebook on Sunday at 8 o'clock in the morning. And it's a wonderful program that has snippets from Pakistan, from a marathon runner who's talking about how polio is like a marathon, Rotarians talking about why they support Polio Plus. So I encourage everybody to watch it on Rotary's Facebook page on Sunday. Next slide. So this is like one of my favorite photos. This is it's a screenshot from a Zoom call that I was participating in. And this is from the National Emergency Operations Center for Polio in Pakistan, or Afghanistan rather. And it was 5:06 in the morning and we'd been on the phone, been on Zoom for like 5 hours. So it was a long meeting. But what I noticed was that you see the End Polio Now logo there, and it's the National Emergency Operations Center of Afghanistan had as their profile pic Rotary's End Polio Now graphic. And I just thought, wow, I'm really impressed that that's how they're showing their support for polio eradication, that they've chosen Rotary's End Polio Now graphic to reflect that. Next slide, please. So Afghanistan, the story in Afghanistan is really, on the polio front, is not as bad as one would think it would be. In fact, during the summer months, when there was a transition of government, WHO and UNICEF staff, whom we work with most closely, stayed in the country. And their motto is stay and deliver. So there's 313 World Health Organization staff working in Afghanistan, and they stayed out in the field. And they were the ones that were doing the surveillance work. They're the surveillance medical officers. They were able to continue to collect samples, send it to the laboratory, et cetera. Our National Polio Plus Committee, we have a small group of Rotarians in Afghanistan who work on polio. Their work continues. They continue to advocate with various government leaders. Polio immunizations are continuing in cross-border areas and in some clinics that are still functional. There's been no major impact on the disease surveillance system, as I mentioned. World Health Organization was able to stay and deliver. And amazingly, just last Friday, we received a letter from the Acting Minister of Health who confirmed there will be polio immunization campaigns 8 through 11 November. And those would be likely followed by another campaign in December of this year. And this is interesting because much of about a third of the country had been unavailable for polio campaigns for the past several years because under the old government, the Taliban would not allow the program to come into a couple of provinces. And so there's about 3 million children who haven't been immunized for the past 3 years in Afghanistan. So this will be an opportunity to once again reach all 9.9 million children through a campaign. And the current leadership has also confirmed that women will be able to participate in polio immunization activities and will receive the protection and security that they need to do that. So that's the situation in Afghanistan. And I had a couple more pictures, but that's fine. And I'm happy to answer any questions that anyone may have, but it is here. This is a child in Afghanistan. This is what we hope, right, after the campaigns in November, that every child in Afghanistan will be able to show their purple pinky to indicate that they've been immunized against polio. So in this final photo, one right after this one, is really what I'd love to end with, which is, I think, the perfect picture of what we're doing in polio eradication. So this is a frontline healthcare worker, a woman who lives in the community in which she works. She's trusted by community members, a mother who's very proud that she's immunized her child against polio, and of course, this adorable baby who will never be disabled from the wild polio virus. So that concludes my remarks, Marga, and I'd be happy to answer any questions that people may have. Thank you. Okay. Okay.
If you can't hear, the Zoom audience will see you.
There have been 2 cases reported of polio in the last count that you have. There were almost 425,000 deaths today reported from COVID. You have developed this infrastructure for polio and probably can be moved into COVID. How long will it take?
Thank you. Well, this infrastructure is already helping to respond to COVID-19. So 2020, when COVID was first coming on the scene, or shortly after it was first coming on the scene, the Polio Oversight Board took, of which Rotary is a member, and it's got representation from all those 6 agencies, took a difficult decision to pause polio immunization campaigns so that we could fully understand really what was happening at the community level, because you didn't want to risk the frontline healthcare workers transmitting the COVID virus, and you didn't want to infect communities with the COVID virus. So for about a 3 or 4 month period, all polio immunization campaigns were paused. During that period, the entire polio eradication infrastructure, the hundreds of thousands of frontline care workers, the laboratories, the transportation, the logistics, the vaccine delivery, were all repurposed to work on COVID. And it did that for many, many months. And then we were able to sort of transition back into that infrastructure working on both COVID and polio. So the polio infrastructure has helped and continues to help respond to the COVID-19 pandemic while it continues to work on polio eradication.
Here's my question. If I am not mistaken, this is the first time, speaking of Afghanistan, this is the first time where actually vaccinators can go pretty much to all of the country to look for the children that probably have never been vaccinated. I mean, this is nothing short of a miracle, right?
Yeah. So there's about 3 million children in these 3 or 4 southern provinces who have never been vaccinated. Or haven't been vaccinated for 3 years. So some have never been, and maybe some are vaccinated, maybe they're 5 years old and they had vaccinations 2 years ago. But the Taliban had equated frontline healthcare workers with increased drone strikes. So they're not against polio eradication or immunization per se, but they were very suspicious of the vaccinators. So now that that element has been removed and the Taliban is in charge, these children now are going to be more accessible. The challenge will be to be able to identify where all those children are, because you have to go out in communities and map them very carefully, and they haven't been mapped in maybe 3 years. So people move around a lot, but it is an opportunity we haven't had for 3 years, for sure.
And what can you tell us about Pakistan? Because there is one case this year, but last year we had several cases, right?
Yeah. So Pakistan actually is doing very well, and I think what's the change in Pakistan has been twofold. One is that Imran Khan, the prime minister, has said, now is the time to have a killer instinct on working on polio eradication in Pakistan, because he sees how close we are with just the one case. Also, there's a new strategy to reach out to the communities that were traditionally hesitant to accept the vaccines, the Pashtun community, which is a minority community in Pakistan, but they're 15% of the population, but they make up 85 to 90% of the cases over the past several years. So we've needed to have a strategy where we can figure out how to engage with the Pashto community such that they're more accepting of the vaccine.
This is so historic that it is hard to grasp of how big this moment is. Another number that always I find it hard to believe is you mentioned that Rotarians, all of us, have contributed since the campaign began over, what is the amount? $2.3 billion. Okay, Rotary is a nonprofit organization. We have volunteers there. I don't know if there is another organization in the world where the members have the commitment and the passion. And yes, some people are tired. But let's find another cause. But what is very important to say is that we're not going to give up until polio is eradicated from the face of the earth. So I think as Rotarians, you all have to feel very proud that you are a part of this. And most people have forgotten, or they don't think that polio is still around. And yes, we have 2 cases today, but it's still the risk. If we don't eradicate everything, as you say, it can come back. So, Carol, thank you for bringing such good news to the club, and I hope this inspires our members and you who are on Zoom or on Facebook Live that you're not Rotarians, go to endpolio.org. Oh,
are there taking any questions from the chat?
Yes, would somebody, let's see. So how is Rotary preparing at the forefront for getting credit where credit is due for ending polio?
Thank you, Karen. Thank you. Yeah, this is top of mind, of course, for Rotarians everywhere and our Rotary leadership. And so we have I'd say a very robust communication strategy. And we are working with media all the time. We're working on social media all the time. We're engaging with the heads of agencies of the other organizations. You could see we had that thank you video that was done that recognizes Rotary for the work that we do. So yeah, there's a strategy in place to ensure that when the world is certified polio-free, Rotary is recognized along with all of our other partners, but also recognized as the organization that first had the vision of a polio-free world, because that's, we alone are the organization that had that.
So if you have connections with the Nobel Committee, you know what to do, right? Start writing emails because
social.
Yeah, I think that's one of the ways to get a Nobel Peace Prize for an organization like ours. So we're never afraid of thinking big in Rotary, right?
I think President Shekhar is working on the Nobel Prize for Rotary for polio. So I think he's already working on that, and he has got some good connections. So we'll see.
Okay, be ready to be amazed, okay? Do we have another question?
The question on Zoom is...
There was one before the one you just did, and there's one after.
The question on Zoom?
Yes.
The strategic plan identifies the Pashtun areas of Afghanistan and Pakistan. What is the plan for those areas?
So for in particular in Pakistan, the plan is to engage with Pashtun leaders and influencers in order to work with the parents in those communities. So we haven't done a good job of including them in developing the strategies and going out into the communities and talking about the benefits of polio immunization. So the strategy is to bring them into the fold, and so that they can develop the strategies alongside the polio people, so that it is more acceptable to the community. So it's really community engagement, but including them in the planning.
Thank you so much. Do we have another one? Okay. Carol, thank you. This has been great. You know, what we would like to give you, besides our gratitude, is a certificate of gratitude for you. And yeah, thank you for everything you do, because you keep all the tags together there.
They're hurting cats.
So, okay, another applause for Carol. All right, well, now comes the time where we're going to introduce guests. We have a lot of amazing guests on Zoom, so I'm going to start, friends, with those on Zoom. And we have our district governor, Jane, who visited us last week. Jane, thank you so much for being here. As you know, last week, Jane told us about our District 6440 has created what is called the Polio Plus Society. So you can be a charter member of the society until December. I think it is December 31st. You can contribute $100 every year as a member of this society. So if you check our district's website, you're going to have more indications of how to go about joining the society. So Jane, thank you again. And let me see who else is here. I see Aina Pinkney. Aina, welcome to our club. Aina was one of our outstanding guests this last year, or this Rotary year. So we're so delighted to see you again with us on Zoom.
Thank you.
Okay. Would you like to say, Aina, a couple of words?
I was down at Richmond 7600 district meeting this last weekend, and their entire fundraising weekend was about Polio Plus, and I was the keynote speaker. And I ended that speech with what I will say today as well, and that is, I understand that there is donor fatigue, and I need to thank you all from the bottom of my heart for how hard you work and for how you continue, so that perhaps in my lifetime, I will see the end of polio, which has impacted my life forever. Thank you all.
Thank you, Aina, for spreading your positive message and your story, most importantly. Okay, and I see people that I don't know. Well, I see PDG Roberto Silva from Chile. Welcome again. It's good to have you.
Hugs, Marga. Nice to be with you. Great speech. Regards from Chile.
Good to see you. All right. Well, I'm going to go short on Zoom guests. You forgive me, so you will need to come next week to our meeting so we can introduce you properly. But I would like to go ahead and introduce guests that we have here at the Union League Club. We have Ana and Carlos Borja from Mexico, who live in Lake Forest. And would you like to come here so they can see on Zoom?
Margaret, thank you very much for the invitation. As we told you before, we are proud son and daughter of Rotarians in Mexico, actually. And we live here in Chicago for 10 years already. And this is a great opportunity for us to be connected with Rotary Club. Thank you very much for the invitation. Very impressed with all the work has been done. I heard my father talking about the end of polio like 20 years ago. And, it's one thing that I should say is that this is probably one of the most successful campaigns in the history that can be recorded, because it's $2.3 billion. How many billions and billions and trillions of dollars have been spent in COVID? And, it just, the efficiency and the commitment of Rotary to end polio is something that you have to put together a business case and really say, this is the way to attack problems in the world. Thank you very much for the invitation, Marga.
We're delighted to have you here and look forward to seeing you very often.
Yeah, we will.
Excellent. And then we have, would you like to come and say a few words, Bill? Okay, we have another guest from
Coral Gables. Hi, everyone. I'm Bill Martinez, Rotary Club of Coral Gables, Florida. I never thought I'd say, but the weather in Chicago is more beautiful than Coral Gables today. So thank you for doing that for me. I'm living here part-time now. I'm back and forth. So hopefully I can be a guest here once again and many times in the future. Thank you for having me today. Thank you.
Thank you so much for coming, Bill. And you know where we are. And now, well, this is a time when we say thank you to the volunteers, and we're going to tell you about two fabulous activities we've had this last week. And so, Sarah, would you like to come and tell us about the Simeon Career Academy and what you guys did there? And Eric was there too, right? You were there? Okay. Well, our immediate past president, Eric Kempel, was there, and I can say that Sarah was the mastermind of this project. So, Eric, go ahead.
Sure. And yes, this is all part of the CPS opportunity grants. There were 10 grants to 10 different Chicago public schools, thanks to Sarah and Wes and the Community Service Committee. Each one of those projects has a service component written into the grant. And so we had our first of those 10 service projects was at Simeon Vocational Academy. And Simeon happens to have a culinary program there, and we're supporting the creation of a pantry that allows the students to put their fresh veggies that they harvest from the garden, the food they prepare and so forth into that facility with a fridge and everything. And then people in need can also take the food from the pantry. So that's the work in progress there that we're funding. And the day of service associated with that was essentially going there to help them harvest vegetables and cook a full meal with the students there. There were about 25 students in the class. I thought a bunch of high school students trying to cook a meal in a big kitchen. I imagined total chaos. It couldn't have been anything further from the truth. It was so well organized. They were so focused. We were the ones there distracting them and causing trouble, to be honest with you. There were 4 of us that showed up. We were a little bit like school kids ourselves because we got to wear actual chef's outfits and hats, and we were kind of giggly about it. I mean, we were pretty excited, I got to tell you. So we helped them harvest, cook the meals. The meal was incredible. I would say it's 5-star restaurant, Michelin star kind of food. We had homemade ice cream, homemade apple galettes, roast pork, collard greens, mashed potatoes. It was a really wonderful experience. If the other 9 service projects are even half as fun as that, we're all going to have a great time. And Chuck was there. Chuck can vouch for that. Oh, I forgot about the chocolate chip cookies. Yeah. Okay, so that was that service project.
What? Do we have a day to go back?
We were asking if we could go back the next day. Yeah.
Thank you, Eric. Thank you so much. Well, and then the other project that happened on Sunday, we got together with members of the Rotary Club in Lighthouse, Evanston. And there's an organization called Freshwater Live that organized a beach cleanup. So this is like one half of the group, but those are mostly our members. And there were about 10 people from Lighthouse. And it was, first of all, it was a stunningly beautiful autumn day. We gathered there at 9 o'clock. And everything was super well organized by Jay, who was running Freshwater Live. And after that, as you can see, we had children. So Hervé Jacquiot and Andrew Dykens came with their families. So the kids, we wore masks outside because some of the kids were not vaccinated. They were too young. and everybody had a role there. Some of the kids were counters of every little piece of plastic that we picked up, or every cigarette butt, or every other interesting thing we found on the beach. It's amazing how much plastic was there. And then we met Linda Gerber, is the president of Evanston Lighthouse, and some of you may know that for many years we have helped each other's global grants. So it was a really good time to meet in person. Bernard was there. He had the best time. He was the attraction. So in fact, they invited him to speak at the Lighthouse Rotary Club about plastic, which is his passion. So we're hoping that something like that will continue, because it was very well received, and it was a beautiful day outside. So, but we're not done yet. So Sarah is who is a co-chair of our Community Services Committee, is going to tell you about what is coming up next week. Go ahead.
Okay, good afternoon. I am Sarah Buck. I am the Community Service Co-Chair with Wes Westerfield, and our next service project that is coming from one of our CPS grants is actually this Saturday, the Taste of Chinatown. It goes from 11 until 1. If you're interested in volunteering at this activity, you can register. There was a link today in the gyrator. Volunteers will need to be there by 10:30. It's at Haynes Elementary School. I believe that's on 24th Place, but maybe they'll put that in the chat for the Zoom people, but it's Haynes Elementary School. That's where the event is being held. And the event will kick off with a dance ceremony where they will honor Rotary. I personally cannot be there right at 11, but I know that there are several people who are volunteered to be there, so to receive that honor. So we're looking forward to that. And it is a public event, so if people want to go, you can just go. You don't necessarily need to volunteer unless you would like to. And then just to give you a little bit of preview of what might be coming, last year we funded 10 grants through our CPS program. So Simeon was one, the Taste of Chinatown is 2, and then a couple others that are on the way, possibly in November. There was a grant for students at Schubert Elementary School taking several field trips around the city. And they're trying to figure out how to do that during the bus driver shortage. And so they are actually looking to use the CTA to get to some of their events, and they are looking perhaps for Rotarians to be chaperones. So I was first in line. I say, yes, let's do that. But there's several details that need to be worked out for that. So that might be coming. And then in January, another one, they'll be looking for Rotarians to volunteer to be patients for students who are learning how to be in healthcare. So learning how to take blood pressure, learning how to, I don't know what else they're going to do. Blood pressure is the first thing that comes to mind. But our grant funded several pieces of equipment. And so that is happening in January. So the CPS grant version 2 is out now. So our link is here. You can get to it from the Rotary One homepage. If you know anyone in CPS, please forward it. It's been out for what seems like 5 minutes, and I already had an application in. So she was quick on that send button. The application is due December 1st, and I'm really looking forward to seeing what we get this year. Thank you.
Well, we have a Rotarian at the Lakeview Rotary Club who's a principal in one of the schools. So that's Amy Hopkins. So I hope she sends the application. All right. Well, one event we're planning for February of next year for our birthday, our club's birthday, is a wine tasting. So I pray that things are going to be more open. This is going to be a celebration for our club's birthday, but at the same time, a fundraiser for our club. So cross my fingers, February 17th, it's going to be the Argentine wine tasting. And the goal is to invite our friends in Rotary, but also, look, wine is good, and there's going to be food as well, so it should be a great party that I hope we're all able to celebrate with an improved, COVID situation here. But so that's coming, all right? One meeting that is coming, that is happening on the 20th, which is tomorrow, from 7:30 to 8:15, is a business networking meeting that is going to be virtual. So if you want to make business connections or bring people outside, just tell your friends, look, pick up the phone, get on Zoom, and come and meet other people. And it's essentially networking. All right, this is an initiative from our Ed Graziano. So I thank you so much, because this is how Rotary was born. So we are honoring the past, but at the same time looking at the future to see what these new connections can bring to the club. On the 21st of October, from 6 to 7:30 p.m. in Downers Grove, there is going to be another event called Rotary Means Business. It is also a networking event, so if you live in that part of Chicagoland, please go there. Those meetings are very inspiring as well. Marshall, you're going to be there, right? Okay, so tell your friends that they can come to this event and meet past President Marshall Schmidt, all right? And then, let's see. Oh, okay, there's a note here. RSVP for the event in Downers Grove is required today, so please send your email. All right, we have our committee meetings as well. They're coming, our committees continue to meet virtually, so that is super easy. And as you know, we're very much enjoying these Zoom committee meetings. So if you don't belong to a committee, just join one, because that is where the fun happens. And you have the dates on the screen. Okay. And then on Friday, as usual, for those who are around here at noon, this is if you want to have lunch with friends or people you would like to meet, come to the Carvery on the 4th floor of this club and have lunch. You have to pay with your credit card, and everybody is as well invited. All right, what we have next week coming, October 26th, is Father Medard Lass, who is the Executive Director and Founder of Joyful Again. And that is going to be a hybrid meeting. So we look forward to seeing you. And as you see on the screen, on November 2, for Rotary After Work, we have Peggy Parfenoff, who is the Executive Director of World Chicago. So stay tuned, register. As you know, on Thursday, you have to register for next Tuesday's lunch. So I look forward to seeing you all there. And in order to close, we continue with our tradition of reciting the 4-way test. And I would like to ask Carol if you would like to come and read it.
Thank you. Thank you, Marga. Have it there. Yes. Okay, please join me in the 4-way test. Is it the truth?
Is it the truth?
Is it fair to all concerned? Will it build good friendships? And will be beneficial to all concerned?
Okay, and with that, this meeting is closed.